Good morning. Can you hear us okay?
Sure can.
Yep, I can.
All right, good morning. It sounds like we have a quorum and it's 10 o'clock, so we can go ahead and get started if you all are ready.
Sounds good to me. All right, I'm going to move right along. I'm calling this meeting of the Pinal AMA Groundwater Users Advisory Council to order. Today is September 19th, 2023, and the time is 10 o'clock. The meeting is being held virtually. I am William Collins, the chair, and if the members would please introduce themselves.
Steve Miller, Pinal County Steve Miller, Pinal County Supervisor.
Brian, would you introduce yourself, please?
Good morning, Brian Hartman here.
What about Brian Rhodes?
Yeah, hey, Brian Rhodes here. Hi, everyone.
Gotcha. It would appear that we are missing Mr. Riggins, but we do have a quorum, so we will go ahead and proceed with the meeting. And I'd like to move on to item number 2, which is the meeting logistics. Joy, Vera, if you would please be so kind as to handle the logistics.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Would you like to do introductions in our room before I go on to my logistics section?
Yes, that would be great.
Great. So we do have some ADWR staff here in the room with us. You all are familiar with me, I think. My name is Natalie Mast. I'm the Active Management Area Director.
Melissa Sykes, the Water Management Assistance Program Coordinator.
Brian Nelson, the AMA Conservation Program Supervisor.
Hi, everybody. Jeff Heilman. I'm legal counsel for the Arizona Water Banking Authority.
Good morning. I'm Rebecca Bernat, the manager of the Arizona Water Banking Authority.
Good morning. I'm Joy Revelo-Vera. I'm the AMA Program Supervisor.
Very good.
Is
there anything else we're missing on the DWR side?
No, not on our side. That's everyone for us. Thank you.
All right. I would note that if the audience members are interested in introducing themselves, just please type your name into the and affiliation into the chat box. Let's move on to item number 2 again, if you would, Joy.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everyone. Before we get started, I would like to go over some webinar logistics. Members of the public, we ask that you please keep your phone muted during the meeting. This helps reduce audio feedback. If during the meeting you have a question, please feel free to type the question in the chat box, and they will be read and addressed at the end of each agenda item. If you would like to speak to the council, the call to the public would be the time to do so. Please indicate in the chat that you would like to speak, and we will unmute your phone. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted to ADWR's website and YouTube page once the recording is generated. Finally, if you have any technical difficulties, please contact our help desk. Their contact information can be found on the screen. And presenters, please ask for the next slide when presenting your agenda item. And that's it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Joy. Let's move on to item number 3, which is the Colorado River update, which will be provided by James Hefner. James, if you would, please.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm James Hefner, analyst here with the Colorado River Management section for your Colorado River Basin status update. Let's go ahead and roll, please. Next slide. System status as of September 4th. Things are looking pretty good, relatively speaking, at least better than they were last year. In the Upper Basin, we've got 90% or more for Flaming Gorge and Fontenelle. Blue Mesa's at 83%, 72% for Navajo. Lake Powell's at 38%, 8.847 million acre feet. Lake Mead is 34% capacity, was 34% capacity, 8.898 million acre feet. Total system storage 44% compared to last year it was at 34%, and the numbers obviously have changed somewhat since then. It's only Lake Mead's up a little bit more, Lake Powell's down a little bit, just because of water moving between the reservoirs. But as far as the system, that's unchanged. Next slide, please. As far as the water year perspective, 2023 was definitely a good year. Snowpack peaked at 161% of the seasonal median on April 7th, translating to 10.62 million acre feet. And inflows to Powell for the spring runoff through July. Total water year inflows are on track to hit about 13.6 million acre feet, not quite a 2011 year experience, but more than we saw in 2019. Likewise, intervening flows between the dams have been above normal for much of the year, well above the 5-year average that's tracked by reclamation. Tributary inflows below Meade were also improved. Both Como Dam and the Bill Williams and Painted Rock and the Gila River were missing water. The Gila River actually had water reaching the confluence of the Colorado this year, which obviously doesn't happen that often. I mean, it's twice the last 20 years. Last time was 2010. As for 2024, the September forecast ranged from 6 million acre feet to 17.6 million acre feet, with the most probable forecast about 10. I take those with a very large grain of salt. Obviously, at this point, there's considerable uncertainty in the forecast. There's very little information available to actually drive them at this point. I'd be especially cautious about the maximum. Well, it's not impossible. I mean, it's greater than anything we've seen in the period of record, with the exception of the 80s. It also would imply that we've seen relatively 2 wet years in a row, which again is not impossible, but that's not something that we've been seeing in the more recent drought conditions. Next slide, please. As for forecasts for reservoir elevations, and these are the August projections. Here we have Lake Powell end of month, 24-month study and 2-year probabilistic projections. The problem max in blue, most probable in green, and the problem min in red. And the calendar year projections for Powell are 35.74 for the most probable, 35.69 for probable min scenario. End of calendar year projections in Powell, 2024, 35.89 under the most probable scenario, and 35.51 under the probable min. Under the projections, Powell is set to release 8.8 million acre feet for this year. 2024, it's currently set for 7.4 million acres for 8 million acre feet for the max, min, and most probable projections. These are all under the current, operating regime of water use. These assumptions may change depending on discussions in the states, any actions by reclamation, and outcome of the SEIS or the supplemental environmental impact statement for near-term operations. Next slide, please. Okay, now we're looking at Meade end of month projections, end of calendar year for Meade, 1065 for 2023 for most probable and probable min scenarios. End of calendar year projections for 2024, about 1057 for the most probable and 1048 for the probable min scenario. For 2024, we're looking at tier 1 reductions for Arizona under the most probable scenario. Well, essentially your tier 1 reductions. That would mean 512,000 acre feet of reductions in the DCP and the interim guidelines. Of course, that assumes that there are no additional reductions that may materialize from the SEIS. Next slide, please. Speaking of the SEIS, as far as an update is where that stands. Reclamation withdrew the original SEIS back in May. They are currently modeling the lower basin proposal with the voluntary reductions. The new SEIS, the draft SEIS, anticipated to come out in October, and the resulting decisions supposed to provide coverage for the remaining interim period through 2026. Next slide, please. Post 2026 NEPA. The scoping comment period has passed. ADWR signed 2 letters, submitted to reclamation on the 15th. The basin states letter, all 7 basin states. There are 3 main takeaways, which is these are large scale items. The basin states have unique interest in the management of the Colorado River. The unprecedented challenges we face require greater collaboration, and collaboration with Mexico is also critical. DWR also sent their own letter, which says more targeted items, and the main takeaways there were then the burdens associated with protecting the river system should not fall disproportionately on any particular state or sector. If there's implementation of storage or conservation framework, Arizona is also going to require an intrastate framework, And finally, the post-2026 guidelines must ensure that water user practices are updated to minimize waste throughout the basin, not just the lower basin, but also apply efficiency guidelines to the upper basin. And if you'd like to see those letters, we have them on our website. Reclamation should also have them up on their website shortly if they do not have them by now. And then with that, I think that closes the update. If you have any, you can move to the next slide. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me to the phone or email address here. Or if you have anything that comes up to mind, I'll do my best to answer it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hefner. I appreciate your presentation. And with that, do any of the members have any questions for Mr. Hefner on his presentation? Hearing none, we will move on to item number 4, which is the Arizona Water Banking Authority presentation, draft plan of operations by Dr. Rebecca Burnett. Ms. Burnett, if you would care to go ahead and present.
Chair Collins, members of the council, according to statutes, the commission, the Water Banking Authority Commission, must adopt a plan of operations by January 1st, 2024. This plan must feature monies available from the Water Banking Fund, the obligations of the Water Banking Authority, and the volume of water the Water Banking Authority is planning on storing and purchasing. Comments and questions from the council and the public today will be summarized in the final plan of operation. This is only the preliminary plan of operation. So there are different, we can develop water in different ways. So as I said, we can store water. Unfortunately, there will be no excess CAP water available next year to the Water Banking Authority. So what we could do is purchase long-term storage credits. And we also intend to develop ICS firming credits. These are intentionally created surplus firming credits that we can develop pursuant to our IGA with the Gila River Indian community, the community. Next, please. So here you can see the different sources of funding that the Water Banking Authority will have next year. And I can go through each of them. So with withdrawal fees collected in the Phoenix AMA, we intend to spend about $1.7 million to develop 5,638 intentionally created surplus firming credits. With the withdrawal fees collected in the Tucson AMA, we could spend $764,000 to purchase 2,120 long-term storage credits. As you know, the Water Banking Authority will not be using withdrawal fees in 2024 in the Pinal AMA. Now, moving on to water storage tax, we have carryover from funds reserved by the CWCD Board of Directors for purchases in 2021 and 2022. So with these monies in the Phoenix AMA, we could spend $3.3 million to purchase 9,260 long-term storage credits in the Phoenix AMA. And in the Tucson AMA, we could spend $7.8 million to purchase 21,740 long-term storage credits. So overall, we're looking at perhaps spending $13.6 million to develop 38,758 credits total. Next. So firming for 2024. Well, we'll be next year in a Tier 1 shortage condition, and according to recent estimates from CWCD, this shortage will impact the CAP and IA pool. And this means that the Water Banking Authority will have an obligation for the community. And in the table that I have here, I'm just showing how we intend to fulfill our obligation. Essentially, we will be extinguishing from our account water credits that were pre-delivered on reservation. So we'll be extinguishing 6,153 acre-feet of water that was pre-delivered. As for CAP M&I subcontractors, well, there will be no firming necessary, and they won't be firming either for on-river contractors. And finally, we haven't received a request from Southern Nevada Water Authority to intentionally created unused apportionment. So there will be no recovery for Nevada in 2024. Okay, thank you. So this is my last slide. You can see all of our different objectives and location of credits in the first column, and then in the second column, you can see how many credits we will have available at the end of this year. And in the third column, you can see how many credits we estimate using in 2024. So as I said, we will have an obligation for the community. So we will be using 6,163 acre-feet. And I also want to point out credit exchanges that may happen in 2024, if not earlier. So if you look at the third column, under the groundwater management, so the withdrawal fees rows there. In 2022, cities of Avondale, Chandler, Goodyear, Peoria, Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Tucson, as well as Freeport and Epcor, agreed to store water in the Pinal AMA. And the Water Banking Authority agreed to exchange these credits for credits the bank has in the Phoenix and the Tucson AMA. And in 2022, these storing entities stored 45,500 acre-feet of water, which means that in 2023, overall, all of these entities will receive 43,225 long-term storage credits, that is including the 5% cut to the aquifer. And what you can see in the table, it's the long-term storage credit debit from the Water Banking Authority's accounts in the Phoenix and in the Tucson AMA, and the long-term storage credit credit to our accounts in the Pinal AMA, should the total volume of credits be exchanged in 2024. Storing entities have actually until the end of 2026 to request the exchange. And there's only an exchange in ownership of credits. Physically, water isn't moving. Next, that's all I have. I'll be happy to take questions and to hear comments you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Burnett. Appreciate your presentation. Do the members have any questions for Dr. Burnett? Hearing none, thank you again for your update. Most appreciated. And that will move us on to item number 5, which is a discussion, information, and action item, the groundwater withdrawal fee recommendation and the WMAP update. And Melissa Sykes, you will be the one presenting that, I believe.
Chairman Collins, before we move on to the next item, I wanted to note 2 things really quickly. First is that Member Scott Riggins has joined the webinar, so he is here. And the other item is that we do have a comment in the chat. Would you like to take that now, or do you want to hold that until the call to the public?
Let's go ahead and hold that for the call to the public, please.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, council members and members of the public. I'll be going over the Water Management Assistance Program fund balance and the status of the DCP groundwater conservation grants, and we'll, at the end, introduce WMAP project requesting renewal. So the current balance is $232,024. I think go to the next slide. And $75,000 of that is committed, leaving a balance of $157,024. If we renew the irrigation management service project for $120,000 and fund the Natural Resources Education Center for $30,000, we would be left with $7,024 in the WMAP fund. But we expect to collect $361,000 by April, so these projects will have adequate funding. Projects that are currently funded with the WMAP funds are the Irrigation Management Service, the Natural Resources Education Center, and the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority. And the Pinal County Water Augmentation Authority project is dictated in statute to receive up to $200,000 on an annual basis. Next, I will give an update on the groundwater conservation grant. Both projects are currently ongoing. The Using Project-Based STEM Education to Enhance Groundwater Conservation in Pinal County Schools has a remaining balance of $16,181, and we are currently in discussion with the Leak Detection Equipment Placement Project to get them back on track on their contract. Before we move on to the IMS and NREC presentations, Natalie Mass will start the withdrawal fee discussions, but before that, are there any questions regarding the WMAP funds or the groundwater conservation projects?
Yes, so the members have any questions for Melissa on those two items? If not, I have a question for you, Melissa. Do you know what the issue is with respect to Arizona Water Company on the leak detection equipment replacement project? Are they proposing to mix that with WIFA funds?
No, so we've had a discussion back and forth with them regarding the amount of funding that they need and the current scope of their project. It has changed a little bit over this period of time. It's been a couple of years now since we've executed their contract. So we're having internal discussions about how we're going to approach that, and we also are planning a meeting to discuss it with them as well.
Is there a timeline in which they have to use those funds?
There's no timeline for the DCP groundwater conservation grant funding.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be used by the end of the DCP period or anything like that?
No.
Okay, thank you. Do any of the members have questions for Melissa? Hearing none, Melissa, if you want to go ahead and continue on.
So I'll jump in here, Chairman Collins, members of the council. Thank you, Joy. Members of the council, we would like for you all to discuss withdrawal fees today. We're here, it's that time of year for withdrawal fee recommendations. The GUAC is part of the role of the GUACs is to make a recommendation on the withdrawal fees to the director, and the director is required by statute to set those withdrawal fees by October 1st of each year. So you can see on your screens, and also members in the packets that you were provided, you can see kind of the framework here and what some of the prior year fees were for the Pinal AMA. If the members would like to discuss, staff can be available for any questions.
Thank you, Natalie. Do the staff members have any questions for ADWR staff? I do have one for the staff, and for 2023, is it anticipated that the WMAP collected amount will be comparable to what was in 2022? The 361,411. Is that anticipated to carry forward somewhat at that rate?
That's currently anticipated. As you've seen in the past years, we do have some fluctuation but the current projections that you've seen in your WMAP member packet is projecting for $361,000 to be collected.
Okay. Do the members have any other questions for Ms. Mast on this?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Steve, go ahead.
Just real quick, we send this recommendation. However, the director is not held to our recommendation, if I understand correct.
Yes, that's the understanding.
Okay.
That we're strictly an advisory committee.
I understand.
Yeah.
Just want to be clear on that.
No, appreciate that. Yes, go ahead, Brian.
This is Scott Riggins.
I'm sorry, Scott, go ahead.
We have looked at the data. I see in another presentation that we actually have with our contracts and the way that we've been doing things, we're looking at a slight balance in the fund going up over the years. We're not going, our trend line isn't going down, it's going up in balance. With that and the other projects that we have, I would suggest where we fixed the withdrawal fees last year is a good spot to fix them this year. The 65 cents with WMAP and the $2.35 for water bank. And if a discussion has reached a point where that can be made as a motion, I'll do so. Or if other people have things they wish to discuss, I'll offer it as a suggestion.
Hey, Scott, are there any other comments from the members? Hearing none. Scott, if you would like to make that as a motion, I'd appreciate it.
We'll move that we set the withdrawal fees identically to where they were in the prior year at 65 cents for the WMAP and $2.35 for the water bank irrigation efficiency fund for a total of $3.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Natalie, do we want to do a roll call on this?
Yeah, we typically find on the webinars that the roll call is easiest to understand, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Collins.
Okay, if you'd go ahead and call the roll, I appreciate it.
I can do that. Chairman Collins?
Aye.
Mr. Hartman?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Rhodes?
Aye.
And Mr. Riggins?
Aye.
All right, it is unanimous.
Thank you all. Appreciate that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next item. Item number 7. And, excuse me, item number 6, which is the WMAP project update and funding renewal request from Natural Resources Education Center and the IMS service, Pinal Natural Resource Conservation District. So if we can have Jennifer go ahead and present, that'd be good.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of the council. Thank you for the invite today to your meeting and for the opportunity to share with you our current happenings of the Natural Resource Education Center and the chance to ask you for your recommendation to ADWR for continued support. Next slide, please. So those of you who may not be familiar with the natural resource education, I just want to provide a little background. What exactly is the Natural Resource Education Center? Well, it's an education center that was founded by 3 of the Pinal County Conservation Districts. This December, NREC, Natural Resource Education, we affectionately call it NREC, will be celebrating 27 years of service. So we're very excited about that. NREC's mission is to provide natural resource education and ag education to students and adults alike of Pinal County. NREC is a 100% grant-funded program that's, again, like I mentioned earlier, overseen by the 3 conservation districts of Pinal County. We also partner with Central Arizona College, who leases us 2 classrooms and a 4-acre farm that we maintain on campus. Next slide, please. NREC staff. I am Jennifer Salcedo, the director. We have an awesome teaching team who includes Jan Zapata, Laura Lee Wirtz, and Carolyn Harbison. 3 of us are Arizona State certified teachers, and we spend a lot of time each year gaining staff education development hours and just spending a lot of time keeping up on current trends in teaching and keeping up with Arizona State standards. Next slide, please. So what do we provide at the Natural Resource Education Center? We provide the ag education and natural resource education by providing online presentations like we're doing today. We also go into classrooms and do lots of classroom visits, and we provide on-site field trips at our education center here at Central Arizona College, where kids get lots of hands-on opportunities, especially at our 4-acre farm. Next slide, please. What are the programs that we provide at NREC? We have 6 different farm field ag venture programs that we offer each year. That includes the Veggie Ventures program, the Water Out West program, Ag Ventures Corn Festival, From Alfalfa to Ice Cream Dairy program, the 5 C's of Arizona program, a history, and Let's Get Crackin' an Egg program. We offer these 6 programs throughout the year. Typically, we run each program, 1 program each month. Some programs get lots of requests, so sometimes those programs are run multiple months in the year, but each one is offered each year. Next slide. So what did we accomplish in 22-23 school year? Our attendance numbers were outstanding. This was the first year since COVID that we were able to be back in service 100%, meaning we could have visitors out to CAC to take part in our program, our field trips, on-site field trips, and we were able to get 100% back into the classrooms. So we were able to service 6 different Pinal County schools, which include Casa Grande, Eloy, Coolidge, Stanfield, Maricopa, and Mary C. O'Brien, which is a Pinal County school district. And we were able to service 14 different schools, which calculates into 2,441 students, 113 adults, for a grand total of 5,770 agricultural and natural resource education hours. So we had a great year. The response that I'm already getting for this year is, I already know is going to be past those numbers. The response we're getting from educators is we need these opportunities in our classroom, especially after COVID. And so our program is definitely going to be full this year. Next slide. Again, we are sponsored by the 3 Natural Resource Education Conservation Districts, the Eloy Natural Resource Conservation District, Florence Coolidge Natural Resource Conservation District, West Pinal Natural Resource Conservation District. We were also overseen by the Arizona State Land Department. Next slide. I had mentioned earlier, we're a 100% grant-funded program. We receive grants from the Arizona Department of Water Resources, the Gila River Indian Community, and also the Pinal 40 Group. We appreciate these these resources that are provided to us, so that in turn we can provide these services to students in Pinal County. Without these grants, we wouldn't be able to have our program. Next slide. So in particular, our Water Out West program that I mentioned, one of our 6 programs, is a special program in Arizona. There are other conservation district education centers throughout Arizona. In fact, I think there's approximately 36 different education centers throughout Arizona, but the Natural Resource Education Center of Pinal County is the only education center that has a Water Out West program. So we are special in that sense. And we provide a water program curriculum for K through 5th graders. This program meets the Arizona State Educational Standards, provides STEM education and science, technology, education, and mathematics, engineering, and mathematics. It builds on information that a lot of these Pinal County students receive in 4th grade when they participate in the University of Arizona's Project WET program. So our program builds on that. And like I mentioned before, it's a unique program throughout Arizona. So we're pretty proud of that. Next slide. Our Water Out West program hits on these topics when we present to students and adults. We talk about water cycle, we talk about watersheds, we educate in irrigation, water history and conservation, water movement and management. And you can see from these pictures some of the hands-on activities the students participate in when participating in this program. Next slide. We also have a mobile Water Out West program that we actually take out to the school. So the Water Out West program can be a field trip out to our facility at CAC, or we can take this program particularly on the road. We have a Rolling Rivers mobile trailer that we take out to schools. And this year, the irrigation management service run by Eddie Enriquez was so generous and helping us revamp these trailers and get them up to speed after COVID. And so they're up and moving and ready to go. And we'll be taking these out in October out to school districts in Pinal County. And again, we talk about the water cycle, water conservation, water movement, water management, and lots of hands-on activities with those. Next slide. So that's our program in a nutshell. Of course, our biggest expense, of course, is running our programs and having staff to do that. But we do also have some other expenses. We have resource material expenses, classroom supplies expenses, office supplies, classroom lease. We do lease the 2 classrooms from CAC at a cost of $2,000 a year. We have to provide internet, and we need an accountant. So those are some of the expenses that we use with our funds, pay with our funds. Next slide. Now our 23-24 goals are big. We'd like to expand NREC and reach out to further Pinal County schools. Last week I was able to go out and visit Red Rock and Picacho. And those 2 districts are now on board, so we will be going out to see them. And because they are not able to travel, since they're such small districts, we will be going to them and taking our Water Out West program to them. We will be doing some maintenance on our farm out at NREC. We need for our vegetable program that we run in the spring, we need a new drip system for that program, so we will be investing in that. We will also be stretching our outreach for community outreach with our partnership with U of A's Project WET program. They run quite a few community events for 4th graders throughout Pinal County during the year. And in the past, we've had a minimal involvement in that, but we'd like to increase our involvement in that. So we will be doing that this year. Next slide. And with that is the conclusion of my presentation. I would like to thank the Arizona Department of Water Resources and the GUAC Council for their continued and previous support of our program. And I'd like to ask for your recommendation to ADWR for continued support. Thank you. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Jennifer. That was a nice presentation. Do any of the members have any questions for Jennifer? I do have one for you. I noticed that you have a new water movement demonstration facility or exhibit.
Exhibit, yes.
And can you describe how that works?
Well, it's actually a hands-on. We just some tubular I guess I could call it tubular, almost like PVC pipe contraptions, and the students are actually tasked with first they just use that equipment to manipulate water, move water, and then they're given a problem to solve. They've got water leakage, they've got some seepage, so they have to solve these problems. So that's what they do.
Yeah, sounds like a real world water system then, where we have those same issues on water systems. But
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
What type of drip system are you using?
So right now out on the farm for our Veggie Ventures program, we just have tape that it's a drip tape, and it's worked okay for the last few years, but we need to probably invest in something a little more heavy duty, probably a little. I'm going to research some more cost efficient heavy duty drip systems that we can use out there that would be more efficient, water efficient than our drip tape.
Gotcha. All right, very good. Appreciate it, Jennifer. Any other questions or comments for Jennifer before we move on? If not, I accept
Mr.
the
Chairman,
motion to
Mr. Chairman,
approve funding.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Miller.
Supervisor Miller. Just real quick, is there an opportunity that you could send us a schedule of when you're visiting a school that we might be able to come and observe you doing your demonstrations at a school? I mean, I'm a big supporter of this. I think it's a fantastic program, and but I'd just like to really kind of show you that we are for it and encourage other people to see it. Is there a chance that we could do that?
Absolutely. That is a great idea. I will get that to you, Mr. Miller. Oh, to the council for everybody.
Yeah. Thank you.
We would love to have you guys. The more support we can show, the better.
Sure.
Sounds great. Does raise an issue. Natalie, we would have to probably notice that as a public meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Assuming that three or more of us went out there.
Sure. If there would be 3 or more members present, we would need to notice that as a public meeting. What I might recommend to avoid that being kind of more generally open to the public is just sending 1 or 2 members.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would accept a motion to recommend the funding in the amount requested.
Chairman Collins.
Mr. Riggins.
Yes, I would preface the motion with how proud many of us are in Pinal County with the work that Jennifer and her other teachers have done, the outreach here in Pinal County. We feel that they are doing a world-class job in getting the messages out they do, and the care is evident in the product that they deliver to the students and various people. to interact with their program. With that, I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and accept the funding request of $30,000 for the NREC, and go forward with that.
Thank you, Scott. Is there a second?
I'll second. This is Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Natalie, if you would have a roll call, please.
Sure. All right. Chairman Collins,
Aye.
Mr. Hartman,
Aye.
Mr. Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Rhodes,
Aye.
and Mr. Riggins.
Aye.
All right, ayes have it. It's unanimous.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Let's move on.
Thank you.
You're certainly welcome, Jennifer. Look forward to seeing your program next year too. So, hey,
Thank you.
good. Let's move along to the presentation by Eddie Rodriguez with the Pinal NRCD Irrigation Management Service.
Hello.
And once again, there will be a need for an action following his presentation.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to apologize for not being on my computer. My network was having issues, so it kicked me off right now. So I got on through the phone. Can you guys hear me okay?
We sure can, Eddie.
Hello?
And
Okay.
frankly, Eddie, I feel your pain. So yes, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Eddie Enriquez, and I work for the Irrigation Management Service, which is a program formed in cooperation efforts by 3 Natural Resource Conservation Districts, the Eloy, West Pinal, and Florence Coolidge NRCDs, along with ADWR. The program has been around for 36 years. I myself have just, I've been around for 25 years with Irrigation Management Service this September, and thank you for letting me work with you guys. The purpose of the program was to help producers in the Pinal AMA determine the most efficient techniques to achieve maximum irrigation efficiency on existing irrigation systems. This past year, we've done 14 standard evaluations, irrigation evaluations, and 4 turf evaluations. Right now, we're working on finishing up our 6 seasonal evaluations, which is a whole crop season, with cotton and alfalfa. And IMS's purpose is to provide the farmer with educational resources and techniques to save water. The Irrigation Management Service goal is to help the farmer fine-tune their irrigation scheduling, which then gives them water savings throughout the year. IMS also assists ADWR with the Best Management Practices program. Right now we have 91,000 acres, 175 total farm units. IMS holds BMP cooperator meetings in February and March of every year, meets with all of the BMP cooperators, and we review the previous year's BMP practices and any updates and changes on their farm units, assist producers with scheduled BMP forms for their annual reports, and then we look at their upcoming year's schedule. Right now, with the lack of water, we're assisting with fallowing out. We're trying to figure out which fields are best to fallow out and combining water to plant as much as possible. We're also doing new BMP signups. Throughout the year, we meet periodically with cooperators and collect BMP verification data and document them in their files. We work with NREC, our sister program, and we also work with NRCS and do irrigation water management for them on their EQIP cost share program. and that's my report. Hello?
Yes, thank you, Eddie. Appreciate that. Do any of the members have questions for Eddie? I have a couple. Is your program dovetailing with the on-farm water efficiency program that's funded through the U of A?
No.
Okay. I wasn't sure whether there was an opportunity for you to leverage, or your farmers to leverage additional funds using that funding that was provided by the legislature through the U of A.
Okay, I'll look into that.
All right. Members, any other questions for Eddie? Hearing none, I would accept the motion to approve the IMS request for the 120,000 for additional next year's funding.
Mr. Chairman, this is Brian Hartman.
Brian, go ahead.
I'd like to move that we continue funding the IMS program.
Could you include the dollar amount in your motion, please?
Yes, it's 120,000.
All right. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Scott Riggins seconds.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate that. Natalie, if you would be so kind as to call the roll, I appreciate it.
Sure thing. Chairman Collins?
Aye.
Mr. Hartman?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Rose?
Aye.
And Mr. Riggins?
Aye.
And we're again unanimous with the ayes.
Thank you very much, members. Appreciate that. This will move us on to item number 7, which is the AMA Director's Report from Natalie Mast. Natalie, if you'd care to go ahead and give your report.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Collins and members of the council. You'll notice that I'm not Kyle, so there have been some things changing here at ADWR. So Kyle has moved on to his next adventure. He actually moved to California. We greatly appreciate the time he spent at ADWR and definitely miss him, but we're really excited for him in his new adventure. So with Kyle's departure, we are moving back to a posture of having one active management area director. So you'll be interacting with me some more instead of with both me and Kyle. In addition to that, we have had some other staff changes since the last time we met, so I'm just going to kind of go down my list here. Kennedy Shepard is no longer our GUAC coordinator. We're really happy that she's still with the agency. She's simply moved on to a position on our supply and demand team. We're currently working on backfilling her position. So the next time we meet, you'll have a new GUAC coordinator to meet. Michelle C. Benali has been with the active management areas for about 2 years. She was previously responsible for our conveyances team. She's taken on some additional responsibilities supporting the establishments of the Douglas Active Management Area and the Wallapai Valley INA. Joy Vera, to my right here, who you've heard from already, is new to the department. You've been here a little bit over a month now. She is our program supervisor in the AMAs. She is responsible for the conveyances team and also for GUACs and water management assistance programs. So she's going to be supporting Melissa here. And she reports into Michelle C. in our team. I also have Ryan Melson here, who is brand new. This is his second day, and we're throwing him right into meetings. Ryan is our brand new conservation programs supervisor. So Ryan is going to be responsible for the staff that implement those conservation programs in the management plans, the Ag, Muni, and Industrial program. In addition, we have had some changes in statewide planning. John Riggins, our statewide planning manager, has left the department. He actually moved on to a position at WIFA, so we definitely miss him, but we are excited for his new adventure as well, and we're certainly going to be hearing from him in that new role at WIFA. So we are working on backfilling that statewide planning position, and at the same time, we're working on hiring some supervisors for our supply and demand team. One of those supervisors started just last week. His name is Colin Wogenstall, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from him in future meetings. I do have a couple other topics, but I can pause here for any questions before I move on.
Do the members have any questions at this point for Natalie? Hearing none, Natalie, go ahead and proceed.
Thank you. All right, so two more quick topics. First on water supply and demand. So last year, ADWR did get a new responsibility as an agency. So we are required to produce water supply and demand assessments of each of the 51 groundwater basins around the state at least once every 5 years. So we're required to issue at least 6 reports of these groundwater basins, and we're required to do all 51 basins at least every 5 years. Our first round of reports is due this December. We're really excited about the progress we've made and the structures we're putting into place. The reports that we'll be issuing this December are for 4 basins in kind of west central Arizona. Those are McMullen Valley, Butler Valley, Harquahala INA, and Tiger Wash. And then 3 additional basins in southeastern Arizona. Those are Wilcox, Douglas, and San Bernardino Valley. We're looking forward to issuing those reports. We've got a great team working on these, and we are right now in the process of determining which basins we will be assessing for next year. For the Governor's Water Policy Council, again, a very quick update. Governor Hobbs did establish a water policy council to review water issues around the state. Their last meeting was September 6th, and this council has created 2 committees to kind of focus on their first goals. So they have created an Assured Water Supply Committee and a Rural Groundwater Committee, with the goals of reviewing issues around both of those items and getting some proposals and frameworks to the governor's office by December. So that council and those committees are working quickly right now. I would certainly encourage you all to keep an eye on that process, as we have a lot of information about the council and those committees and those meetings on our websites. And that's all I have for now. So with that, I'd gladly take any other questions that there may be.
Do the members have any questions for Ms. Mast on her presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just real quick.
Yes,
Supervisor
Mr. Miller.
Miller here. Yeah. Natalie, on these water supply and demand analysis for these different basins, which I think is a great idea, won't these first ones really kind of be the baseline that we will look at, and in 5 years we will be able to see the difference in the usage and that type of thing? I mean, because we don't probably have a lot of background on some of these at this point in time, or do we? I guess that's really the question.
It's a great question, and the answer is that it's sort of both. So since this is our first year, we're certainly doing a lot of work to establish structures that we plan to build on in future years. This first year's analysis is certainly going to be kind of more of a framework. It's going to be a little bit of a simpler version that we hope to expand on and build on in future years. That said, there have obviously been other water supply and demand reports over time in the past, WRDC and Strategic Vision, and some even before that. But the kind of interesting thing here, to your point, is that this is rather than being a one-time thing where we issue a report and put it on the shelf, this is a cycle. So you're absolutely correct that in 5 years, we'll be able to look back at the basins that we're doing this year and redo some of our work and build on some of the work that we've done this year and check if some of our assumptions were actually correct and see if some of the projections that we're making are kind of holding true or whether there's things in there that we need to reconsider and adjust. So I think it's a really exciting time to be a part of this process. I think it's a really interesting thing, and I'm really curious to see where it goes over time.
Well, thank you for that answer, and I agree. I think it's a little bit overdue. I mean, wish we'd have been ahead of that curve on some of that, but thank you for your answer, Natalie.
Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the members?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Brian, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Natalie, in your report, you mentioned the Governor's Water Policy Council, and then in part with that, you mentioned the groundwater aspect or council, or is that one of the same? Is that water policy also the same members of the groundwater?
Oh, that's a good question. So the Governor's Water Policy Council has really broad membership. What they did with the two committees is they split the members between the two committees. So there are different, so you have to be a council member in order to be on the committees, but each member is only on one of the two committees. I believe the list of those members is on our website. I wouldn't want to try to rattle them off because there's about 40 of them total. so it's a pretty extensive list with pretty broad representation.
Okay, thank you. I'll look that up.
All right. Any of my other members have questions or comments from Natalie? Hearing none. Natalie, I think we'll move on and pull one off the chat box from JD Roner, where she asks, will GUAC AMAs be asked to weigh in on proposals made by the AWS and the rural groundwater committees?
That's a great question. And to be totally honest, I don't know that that's something that's been contemplated at this point. As we have additional future meetings, we can certainly provide additional updates on the council and the committees and the types of proposals they're bringing forward. But at the same time, the committees and the governor's office are also doing some evaluations of what that process might look like, whether it would be a policy thing at ADWR's level or whether it's something that would need to go to the legislature or something in between. So I think additional conversation of exactly what that process will look like it should be forthcoming.
Right. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the Rural Groundwater Committee is basically for those areas outside active management areas. So it really wouldn't impact the GUACs.
Right, that's correct.
The Shared Water Supply Committee would have an impact, obviously, on the GUAC AMAs.
That's correct.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments from the members to Natalie Mast? Hearing none, let's move on to item 8, call to the council. Any of the council members have anything they'd like to bring up? Any comments, concerns? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 9, call to the public. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns from the public?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there's a couple comments in the chat. I'll go ahead and start with those.
Yes, please.
Lonnie Frost introduced themselves. They're listening in from Pinal County, so we have that. And Craig McGinnis also posted a link to the scoping summary of the Federal Register notice input that was received from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. So we have that link in the chat. And JD Roner would like to make a public comment. You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like.
Good morning. My name is JD Roner. I'm with the Arizona Cotton Growers Association, and I'd like to thank you for this opportunity. Council, I would like to make myself available as a resource for you moving forward when it comes to state happenings with water on the AWS and the Rural Groundwater Committee for the governor's water policy. If you have any questions, concerns, or interest in that, I would be more than happy to update you as we move forward and follow along with the progress and proposals being made. I'll put my contact information in the chat and look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, JD. Most appreciated. And if we can have that contact information then sent to the members, I would appreciate that. Any other comments from the public? Hearing none, I would take the chair's prerogative then and call this meeting to adjourn at 11:06. Thank you all for attending. If there's no objections, we will call it and move on. Look forward to seeing everyone at the next one.
Thank you, Chairman Collins.
Great, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.